Pints in a Corner is a music history podcast about the Channel Club in Boston, Mass. Dinky Dawson and Tony Raine are your hosts. They interview channel performers and workers, bringing out stories and memories of the great music and events that came through this iconic South Boston venue. Welcome to 2 Pints in a Corner with Dinky Dawson and Tony Raine. Tony is still recovering, and so Sean McNally is doing the interviews with me, and he's doing an incredible job. And today we have Eric Bradford from Jazz in Hell. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Dinky. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, this is good. And Sean, are you there, sir?
I am, Dinky. Good to hear your voice as always. And hey, Eric, how are you, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Sean?
Excellent. Thank you.
This is good.
Welcome.
This is good. I've got the first question. People don't know who Jazz in Hell is. And so what the deal is we're going to ask how you got this and when you started doing the music and when you got yourself in the channel, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll let you start with how did you name this Jazz in Hell, the music?
You know, the explanation that I got from James, who was the singer who came up with the name, was that jazzin' is like an old-timey expression for screwing. So, you know, even if you say it as Screwin' Hell, I'm still not quite sure what it means, but he was adamant that had to be the name of the band. So that's where it came from.
Oh.
I think it might have been inspired by the fact that I played sax, maybe. I don't know.
But your music was more of the new age style anyway, right?
It was sort of unclassifiable. I mean, people later said that we were the pioneers of Casio punk because it was a little Casio keyboard, and if you remember, the drums were the little drums on the Casio.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I played sax, and James sang, and that was a whole thing unto itself. And
that's Jazz in Hell for sure.
And we had a guy who had a bass that he made in metal shop out of a steel girder, and he also played soprano sax. So it was a weird instrumentation. I would just say, you know, if people want to hear what it sounded like, there's some stuff on YouTube that you could see. There's one video from the channel. I'm not sure which night it was, but it give you a little taste of what it was like. It was very I guess, different from everything else, which is maybe why we did okay there. You know, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Sean went through it. I went through the times. You played 7 times, according to Sean, and I believe that in 1986.
Yeah, 6 or 7 times.
Well, you opened.
So it was.
You actually headlined. You were co-headlining a bunch of dates, but you did open for a couple of people that could be interesting. But
yeah, so.
Well, let me just ask this: were you? What happened? How did he get in the channel? Was it through Dave Mars, or was it from Warren, or Brian Washburn?
So it's interesting. You know, we didn't really know about the channel system, and I think this is kind of an interesting topic. Is the channels, you know, had this sort of tiered system, at least when we were there. Of, you know, they had the new music review on Sunday, Monday, and then if you did okay at that, you kind of went to the All-Star night in the midweek. And if you did okay at that, then they would put you opening for, you know, national or local headlining bands. And this is all through Dave Mars, by the way. He was the only guy we really dealt
Dave
with.
Mars, yes.
Yeah. But this first day we went down there, it was a Sunday. And I honestly, it was so long ago, I can't remember if I even sent a tape, but my recollection is that it was one of those things, like if you had the balls to call up and show up and play, then you could play, you know, like you just had to get put on the bill. And it was really a tryout thing. Sunday afternoon, you know, nobody's there except the people that you brought and the people the other bands brought. So yeah, we went down, we were all students at UVM. I lived in Essex, but I went to UVM. So I went out, picked everybody up in Vermont, came down, and we were we hadn't played hardly any shows. It was really like a dorm room project, and we'd done some radio sessions because I was a DJ at the radio station up there. But we hadn't played much in front of people, so it was really I had been to the channel when I was in high school, so I really wanted to play there. You know, it's like you could pick one place that you could play in the world, like that'd be great if I could actually get someone to let me play there. And they said, okay, come play. So I went and picked them up in Vermont, came down in my mom's Chevette, you know. We broke down like half a mile from the club. We had all our stuff in the hatchback of the Chevette.
No.
Scooped it all out. This is how stupid we were, you know. Scooped it all out. We showed up, and you were there, and you said, well, where's your amps? And we said, oh, we thought you had amps. And so we had to run everything direct, you know. It was like you got a guitar and, you know, the bass and the Casio through that big, beautiful PA, you know, and the sax. And we did our thing. And then when it was over, you know, I thought, oh, God, you know, I saw Tony coming toward us. We're loading out the back. And I was like, oh, he's going to scream at me. Like, who did you fool to get in here or whatever? But he said, oh, you guys are, you know, it's so different. It's so good to have something different in here. I'm going to have Dave call you, you know. And so Dave called me that day or the next day at my parents' house and said, we want you to come play the All-Stars. I didn't know what that was. Okay, you know, it's next Wednesday. It's literally 10 days later. So we played the All-Stars thing, and I think we played another one of those. And as this was going on, you know, we were sort of, you know, every time we would play, all the channel staff that weren't on that night would come in to see us. And we started sort of getting friendly with everybody, and they were all super supportive. And it was just such a great situation. And it was so, it meant so much to me that, you know, every single person was able to sort of look past the fact that we didn't sound like anything else. And it was, you know, there were definitely people there who hated us, you know, I mean, in terms of the crowd, but the staff all had enough of an open mind to listen to it and appreciate that it was different. And they were super supportive. And so, yeah, eventually we got to play a few Friday and Saturday nights. We played with the Straw Dogs in the Neighborhoods once, and Swinging Air in New Miami, and Rick Berlin another night. So yeah, it worked out well.
What was the experience playing and opening for Steel Pulse?
I think that might be a mistake, because unless the other guys played without me, which I doubt, because I'd always have to drive them down from Vermont, I don't think we opened for Steel Pulse, actually.
I've got you on the sheet. You were advertised on the in the Phoenix, because that's where I got it from.
Oh, I don't know. I know, you know, one other time we were booked to open for Hot Tuna, and that got pulled at the last minute because Hot Tuna was touring with somebody that they had to have open. Yeah. So it might have been one of those last minute switch up things or something. But no, we didn't open for Steel Pulse.
Well, okay, Sean, I've been yakking. I'll let you yak now, because you'll be had a good talk with Eric and see what's what here, you know?
Yeah, so I'm curious, Eric. So you guys got the gig at the channel, which was without a tape, which is pretty interesting. Did you guys have a tape out at that point, or not even have it that? You guys so early in the game didn't even have a tape yet?
Yeah, we had a tape because literally before we played in front of anybody, like I say, I was on the radio as a DJ, so I would bring us in and we would play on the radio. So we just taped that. But it didn't sound, it was the same songs as we played live, but the live thing, if you remember, was very different than if you listen to a tape. You don't get any sense of what the live thing was like. I mean, James was just like this whirling dervish of a person. And so, yeah, we didn't, and like I say, I don't know if we sent a tape in or not, but I think there were places like I know we got a show at Molly's around the same time without sending in a tape. And I think there were things like that, but it was, I think the Sunday afternoons was very much like almost like an audition, like a tryout kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. And obviously, like you said, someone liked you enough to invite you back 10 days later, which is pretty good. But like you said, there was back then, we had that series where like Sunday, Mondays, maybe like new music night. I think Tuesday was like metal night for a while, ska night. And then Wednesday was like the quote unquote all-star night, where the bands who, you know, either sold tickets or gave out tickets to their friends, had a big draw, would get a chance invited back on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And then, the idea was you want to try and get to become a Friday, Saturday act. Ideally as a headline, at worst case, be on a nice bill where you're supporting some good bands where you're going to play in front of a lot more people, which is what happened with you guys. So,
right.
It's interesting. You guys only played, as I was talking earlier, it's like only 6 or 7 shows in the channel. It was all within like 5 or 6 months of 1986. So it was like kind of this like band out of nowhere just comes on the scene, college kids up in Vermont, and then the people in the club take a liking to you, and all of a sudden you're playing, a half a dozen times in the next few months, and opening for bands like Rick Berlin the Movie and Newman and the Hoods, like you mentioned. We're all pretty much stalwart Boston headliners back then, so that must have been kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially for me, because I was the only one from the area, so I kind of knew what the channel was and what a big deal it was to play there. The other guys were from Vermont; they just knew it was like this amazing club that we went to every once in a while. But like I was saying, like I yesterday, just out of curiosity, I pointed an AI thing at the channel club. Your listing on BostonsBestLiveRock.com. Just to get a sense of how many people had kind of climbed this ladder, and it spit out some numbers and stuff. And it actually said that we went from the audition to the Friday night faster than any band in the 13-year history of the channel. And we weren't really bringing in a lot of people. It was all pretty much based on the support of, Tony, Dinky, everybody in the security staff. I remember Carmelita was a big supporter. Everybody there. I mean, they were all so amazing, and they just like, we got to have you back. We got to have you back. And,
one of the cool things about the channel, and we talk about this on almost every episode, is how supportive and nourishing the local community, the Boston rock scene was back then. We're talking mid '80s in this specific case, but you mentioned Carmelita. Like, we had major radio stations with 50,000 watts, like WBCN, and then you had COZ and AAF, and all the college stations and FNX later on, and then. A lot of those people on the air that were DJs were also coming to the channel and either emceeing or being a DJ at the club those nights. So you also get a chance to play in front of actual radio people when you played those shows. So clearly, if you made an impression with any of them, like you did with the staff, they went back and they played you on the radio station, or they talked about you on the radio, and then that goes nowhere but good. Nowhere but good.
Yeah. I remember Shred did one of the shows, and he was really cool. But yeah, it was. I mean, I was just so amazed because. To me, it was just, people are going to hate this, but I loved it. But I was like, if you like, if you're listening to Extreme and stuff every night, that's probably what you're going to like. You're not going to like us. But everybody was super cool. And I have these great, like I remember Dinky, you told me about Half Man, Half Biscuit. Like we just have these good chats, and Tony would say, come in. Like I remember he told me to come in, on a Sunday to see Specimen. He's like, I think you'd really like Specimen. I know you never heard of him, but you really like him. So I took the train in, went to see him, hung around, talked to him the whole afternoon. It was a really cool show, and just to have access and be able to talk to all these people with so much experience, so much knowledge. I had so much respect for it. It was, it really meant the world to me. And I think, everybody in our band, it was just a fantastic summer,
For sure. And now you guys, so you mentioned you were at UVM, your local kid, but you went to UVM. Were you in other bands before Jazz in Hell, or was that really your first, entry into the music business, so to speak?
Yeah, that was really my first real. I mean, I played in like a cover band in high school, but I hadn't really done a band. I'd never played in a club other than like with this cover band. And James had a band called Divot Head in high school. I mean, we were young. We were freshmen in college. So we were like 18, 19 years old. So we hadn't done a whole lot.
And what was the music scene like in Vermont at that time?
There were some really good bands. And, it was interesting. I can't remember who it was, if it was Dave or Tony or somebody, but sort of toward the end of that summer, I sort of threw out to one of them, like, there are good bands in Vermont. We should have a Vermont night down here. And they said, yeah, do it, set it up. And they like gave me a Wednesday night or Tuesday night or something. Said, it's whoever you want to have down, we're going to do it. And I actually set it up, and then some of the other bands pulled out at the last minute. I think they didn't believe me or something, like they said it was real. But it kind of fell apart at the last minute. But I mean, that was another case of, they were just being so supportive, and they I told them like these bands are great, and they're like, okay, we believe you, let's do it, and it was like, wow, that's incredible. But yeah, there are good bands like the Hollywood Indians, Screaming Broccoli. I mean, Fish were playing out a lot. It wasn't really our thing, but the Switch. There's a bunch of really good bands up there.
Yeah, it was a great scene up there. We, I was with, Sam Black Church and above the hardcore bands at that time, and we went up there every year, at least twice a year to Burlington. It was an awesome scene up there. So many college kids. It was like the biggest city in the state, and right on Lake Champlain's right there. Just a really beautiful downtown, and kids definitely came out for shows. I mean, back then there was the 242. Then right. Later there was a Post. There was a couple of big halls, Memorial Hall, I think. And Nectar's was the big hangout after that, where you get to go out and have those fries and gravy at 3 a.m. after you play the show. It was a really cool town. So I can imagine. Yeah.
No, but one of my best friends, Dennis Wigman's, ran Toast. That was a phenomenal club, and the Teen Center was great. We did a Fugazi show at the Teen Center in like '88 or something, and I mean there were great shows there every weekend. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of outlets for that kind of stuff. So it really nurtured bands. If you had something you could do musically, there were places for you to do it. So it was cool.
You said you also had your own radio show up there. How did you get into that? Did you have an interest in being a DJ at one point, or just helping promote bands, or how did you kind of find yourself in that world?
Yeah, not to be a DJ professionally, but I mean, I always listened to like ERS in high school, and that was the one thing I knew when I went to college. Like, that's one thing I know I want to do is be on the college radio station. So I did that sort of right off the bat, and I did different types of stuff. But I think that year '86, I did a show that was just Boston bands, because there was so much coming out of Boston. You could do that, do
right.
2 hours a week. Right. And it was called Sound of My Town. I know it sounds like a copy in Brett Milano, but it was actually before his book came out. So, but that was great. It was, like I was getting all the stuff from all the independent labels, Throbbing Lobster, Tang, whatever. And, it really, I mean, I to this day, I'm just enamored of that era of Boston music. I just love it.
Yeah, I think we always talk about this stuff. Like the mid '80s or the '80s in general was really a really special time to be around the Boston music scene. And not that it's not special now, but just we've all talked about this before. You could play literally every night of the week back then if you wanted to. I mean, you could play literally the Bun Ratties, Jets. You could play the Channel. You could play the Paradise. I mean, you could literally play in town every night and go see shows every night if you wanted to. There were so many venues. The radio station, the support was amazing. And I think it's kind of cool how, you and I were talking before, how you took a real, being from Essex, you're local enough to Boston, but you were, experiencing all these Boston acts, and to the point where you could actually have your entire radio show be dedicated to that. But you also kind of kept that with you. We were talking about how you really fell in with some of the bands that were you didn't want to see them go by the wayside. And we talked about the Neats and Scruffy. Maybe talk about that a little bit and how you kind of got them so they didn't kind of fall within the relics of time and get forgotten by people. How did you get involved with that stuff?
Yeah, so I just love all those bands from sort of the early mid '80s, Boston, Neat, Scrub. I mean, I could go on for half an hour just listing off the bands, but one of the things that really bothered me later on was those records would go out of print, and I'd think to myself like, I remember that Neat album, Blues and Blue. I'd love to listen to that. I mean, I happen to have a copy, but if I wanted to tell a friend to listen to it, like, there's no way for them to do it. And I was
right.
like, that's crazy. So I started trying to think of albums I'd like to get re-released. And we actually did, I called Steve Fallon and ran Coyote Records, that put out those last 2 Neat records. And he just said, do whatever you want. It's fine with me, So Eric Martin and I got together and we remastered all that stuff. And Carter Allen helped us source some stuff from BCN, like a really good 24-track recording from Newbury Sound that they did. It sounds incredible. Some other live stuff and some demos, and we put it out on Bandcamp, and people really like that stuff. And then the Scruffy the Cat thing, I had a license deal with Sony. Like I called them up and they said, yeah, we'll license it to you if you want to put that stuff out, because I was completely unavailable. And they kind of, when it got to the point of like where the master tapes, it started dragging out. I was getting really frustrated. And then Charlie Chesterman died, and I sent this really angry email to them. We could have done this while he was around. His kids could have heard it, all this, like,
sure.
And I was just angry, and that email got forwarded around, and eventually made it up to an EVP at Sony. And the day after I sent the email, I got a call from Sony. It's like, we're going to do whatever you want. Let's do it right now. We got to get this done right now. So I was like, oh, okay, well, but then they called me a week later and said, we're actually going to do it, which was fine with me because I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted the stuff to get out. But they ended up finding all the master tapes, all the original artwork. Pete Weiss and there's a Boston guy named Tim Smith at Sony that remastered all that stuff and put it all out. And I mean, it's all digital. It's on streaming and Bandcamp and HD tracks if you want the high def. But sounds fantastic. That's all I really wanted to do, is make sure people could get access to it.
That's really awesome.
That's cool.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, very
that's
cool.
Great
like
bands.
that.
Like you said, there were so many bands you just saw on a daily basis back then. We just took it for granted, and then not everybody even recorded much of their stuff back then. But the bands that did, like you say, it was very limited. You might put like their own 7-inch or something like that, or a local compilation. But to actually have the ability to go online now and hear some of that stuff is really fantastic. So that's a really cool thing you did. I thank you for doing that, because it's just great to have those bands that would have fallen by the wayside.
Exactly, Sean. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I wish I could do more of it, but it's it's really time. I actually reached out to Chuck Warner. I was like, I want to put out the whole Throbbing Lobster catalog, and he said, go ahead, but and then I talked to some attorneys, and they're like, you're gonna have to get every single person who played on any of those records to sign stuff, and it's like, forget it, just forget it, It's like, it's on YouTube.
That's the problem. It's so hard to reissue stuff like that people just do say, forget about it. It's not worth it, and it's kind of a shame, because there's so many hoops to jump through and people to sign off.
Yeah.
And it's not like to be a million seller like that. You just want to have this stuff like saved and preserved, So it's kind of a frustrating thing, right?
Yeah, it's like we definitely lost money on the Neats thing. I don't really care because it accomplished what I wanted it to. But I mean, it's this kind of a middle ground, which is somebody's got a scratchy vinyl rip on YouTube. But if you really want to hear it, you could probably hear it for some of these records. But it's a lot of work, and it can be expensive, too. I mean, even just to bake the tapes and remaster them and all that. So.
You also mentioned a couple of shows that you almost got to play on the channel with different circumstances came in the way and it fell apart. So give us a story about the Butthole Surfers, because I can tell you this, Dinky has a great story about the Butthole Surfers.
So I think it was like 87. They played, I know they played there a few times. I think this was 87. And we really wanted to get on that bill, and I think we almost did, but then Chris Doherty had a thing called Iron Sausage, and they ended up doing it instead. But what we did was James and I, the second the show was over, it was an amazing show. Second the show was over, we ran out to my car, got my sacks out of the trunk, and we just busked in the parking lot. We right near where people were coming out. Like every single person that came out stopped to watch it. It was like, it's sold out. So like, it's probably 1,200 people standing there watching us, and it's probably the most people we ever played to. But,
I get that.
That's so on the show. Now, Dinky, was that the show in '87 where Gibby you took out the back door? Which is a different show.
I threw it last. I think it could have been it was the last show they ever played. It was before the before the station thing happened and what have you.
Oh, right. So Dinky had to tell this story, Eric. I don't know if you heard this before. There's a story of Gibby, they were doing this show with the crazy, throwing lights and screens and, X-rated stuff on screen and whatnot. And then Gibby got a little bit carried away with the drum set. I'll have Dinky take this part of the story over, but it's pretty crazy.
Well, Gibby got carried away. He put lighter fluid on the cymbal, lit it, and hit it with the stick. So lighter fluid flames were everywhere, all over the stage, all over the drums, all over people. I got hold of him and took him and his amplifier right out that back door. I could not. I mean, he's bigger than me, but there's nobody going to, set fire to the club because of stupid dramatic art. We have, we have gore in there that was, blood everywhere and this, that, and the other. Fake blood everywhere. These guys came and cleaned it up. They cleaned up the stage better than those lot. They took gaffer's tape off the damn drum riser. They did everything. That's how you do that kind of entertainment, that gory entertainment. But not set fire to damn stuff from a lighter fluid on the cymbal and just hit the cymbal so it goes, oh, we're real pretty, and then sets fire to the stage or something, you know, or the people. But, you know, if they play the music the way they were playing it to them, very dramatic videos they got from Texas, you know, and from the university there. Yeah, it's sensational art form, but I've seen worse when I was in the 50s. I've seen far better than that with Screaming Lord Sutch and stuff on stage where he used to stab his bass player and rip his guts out every performance, doing Jack the Ripper. And what he got he got
sounds very Gore-ish for sure, just like Gore.
Well, this is 1957, 58.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
that's outrageous.
Well, it's far beyond Rob Zombie and any of Gore and any of that stuff. He was just sensational, such in working with the people, working with the art, the people. Like you were on about, you give them some theatre, but at the same time, give them this great music. And I mean, when you have Jimmy Page in your band or Nicky Hopkins and all those people growing up, then you play some good music, you know, that kind of thing, you know. But you guys came and had a good time at the channel, and I always enjoyed it because it was so off the wall, the music that you played, and yet so together, because it was a form of music that was just starting to hit everywhere around, you know, at that time, and a different kind of genre. We used to call it the shopping cart genre.
Well, yeah, I mean, I always, you know, and it's interesting, like, in the ensuing years, Dinky, I learned about your history and, you know, got your book and everything. Oh my God, I had no idea back then. You know, people would sometimes say, you know, he worked for the Mamas and the Papas and this, that, the other thing. But I was just so appreciative. Like, it was so obvious that you had sort of deep experience with music and the music world and everything. And it just meant, I mean, I remember we would, after a couple of shows, we'd finish a show and I'd go running right back to the desk and say, what do you think of that? you know, kind of get your review. You know, I was telling Sean earlier, like, you gave me one of the best compliments. I'll never forget it. You know, after one of our shows, you said, you know, I've seen a lot of shows. I've never seen a show with this many people there. Not one person went to the bathroom. Not one person went and got a drink. Not one person turned to talk to their friend. They're staring at the stage the whole time. When anybody asked me, like, whether we are any good or not, I always quote that. I said, well, we might have not been good, but this guy said this about it. So that meant something. That means something.
Well, you know, when that happens, it's actually gone back to the 60s and 70s with the people, because that's what used to happen on stage when people like us would come up on there in the 60s and 70s, is people would be shocked. They'd never heard anything like that or seen anything like that, but they knew it was real good in its own way. But boy, that's different, completely different. And they wouldn't move. They would stand there, and then at the end of the night, they'd applaud like crazy, and they wouldn't let you off the damn stage. You know, it was that's what they used to do until 79, when the entertainment started. What I mean by that changed. The audience became the people that were all nuts, and the band weren't nuts. There were bands were trying to get through with the music, but they couldn't get through because the audience was doing its own thing, you know. Well, when you came, and when the 80s came, and when I came to the channel, I found out that anybody that came to that channel to see some of the local bands, to see some of the bigger bands, enjoyed it. They could get a drink and enjoy and have a quick chat, and then they'd shut up and listen to what's going on. And not only that, like you said, not go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So that's a special thing. And for that time period and that era, you know, and I like that. Anyway.
Yeah, and just to be in front of people who could appreciate it, you know, because to me it was shocking that there were people like that out there, but it was just so encouraging, so meaningful to us. There were people like that.
That would be real encouraging all the time, because I felt that every time I had shows like that, you know. And sometimes we didn't have time to think about what was going on, and then all of a sudden you turn around and hear this song going off, and you see the people, and you see the people having a damn good time. and not being silly and not slam dancing all over the place and jumping off the stage and killing people. But
yeah, that's a good point. It's a great compliment, Eric, that he gave you, because I can tell you, like as you just alluded to, we'd have 4, 5, 6 bands a night there every night.
Every night, yeah.
Sometimes on the weekend we'd have an all ages matinee show, then another show that night, like a reggae show or something, and then, like I said, a Sunday new music shows, or sometimes all ages hardcore shows. So, we literally saw thousands of bands, literally thousands of bands there. Yeah. So for Dinky to come out and tell you that, it really was a really tremendous compliment, honestly.
Yeah.
Not everybody got that kind of a exposure, or compliment, I should say. So.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, tell me another fun story about you were a fan of the Dream Syndicate and wanted to go see them at the channel. Tell us about that story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I've had some good times at the channel. It had nothing to do with playing there. Like the Dream Syndicate were touring. They were one of my favorite bands. I don't know, it was like '87 maybe. They were touring and playing at the channel. It was 21 and over, and I'm 19. So my friend and I drive down from Vermont. It's a 4-hour drive. No ticket. Not old enough to get in. We find Steve Wynn in the parking lot. Told him, like, we just drove 5 hours. You kind of, okay. And he goes in, he comes back out with 2 passes. He said, "You're the roadies. You're going to be our roadies. You're going to hump our stuff in, hump our stuff out." They were traveling with one guy at the time. Yeah. So he was super happy. Like, we were done in a minute. And, we went into the dressing room and just started getting loaded. And then the band came, and a couple of guys in the band got loaded with us. And we all kind of just went stumbling out to the stage. And, I mean, it was a fantastic time. The other time, I think I forgot to mention to you, Sean, I was like, there was a night when the Cramps played New Year's Eve. I think it was like 86.
Yeah.
87. And, again, I'm not old enough to get it sold out. And I had a friend of mine, a girl, come in on the train from Hamilton. We're both too young to get in. And I'm either ballsy or stupid or both. But I was like, I think I can get us in. I think I can. These guys love me. So we go. But as we're walking up, it's like, it's not trivial to take the train on New Year's Eve from the North Shore. So as we're walking up, I'm thinking, oh, my God, this, what if this goes wrong? I look like an idiot. But we walk up, first person there, Jazz now, way through. Second person taking the tickets. Hey, Jazz now, way through. Third person checking the IDs. I'm like, oh, no. Hey, Jazz now. Going. So we get in. I get in like 2 minutes after I get in. I see Tony. It's loud, and he's looking at me. His eyes go wide. He's like, "What are you doing?" Because he knows how old I am,
Sure.
And I just kind of smile and shrug. And he puts his hands over his eyes, like, "I didn't see you. I didn't see you."
I'm telling you to do that.
That
was one of the best shows I ever saw in my life. That New Year's Eve, the Cramps. Oh my God.
That was 86. 86, Sean. It was 86. DJ was Tommy Heidi.
Yeah, they were awesome. Cramps are so much fun. They talk about unique bands. They were so much fun.
Yeah. So much fun.
Well, you must have made quite an impression on the girl you brought. That's awesome. You're both underage. You got into the Cramps sold out New Year's Eve show. Man, you must have been
I know. I felt like, oh my God, that actually worked.
That's cool.
Incredible.
Well, after that, we have time things, so we're going to call this one, but that's been fun. I like that.
Thanks for good memories, Eric. I appreciate that.
Definitely,
yeah,
Eric.
Of course.
Definitely, Eric.
Thank you guys, and thanks Dinky for that summer, and we've kind of stayed in touch on Facebook and stuff since then. It's just an honor and a pleasure to know you, and Sean as well.
Well, we're just people. We just enjoy what we do, and it's good to hear someone who's enjoyed themselves at a place, and in more ways than one. And
yeah, a lot of different ways.
And the channel was like that. It was fun all the way through, even though there were some rough nights. It was good though all the way through. All right, so here we go.
Way more positive than negative memories. That's for sure. Way more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
All right.
I never had a bad time there.
So here we go. This is 2 Pints in a Corner with Eric Bamford and with Sean McNally. We will be now closing out.